I got this comment on my review video of the Wired Freedom saying, quote, "This is last year's model. The 24 model has been updated and is even better at the same price." And you, sir, Mr. Dahuda, are absolutely correct. There is a new model, it's the same price, and it's better. This is the new 2024 model, and I gotta say, just initially, it looks more polished. But let's back up a little bit here, because not everybody is aware of what this bike is. And let me tell you, it's something extremely special. I would go as far as to say it's the best bike value-wise at the $2,000 price point. It truly is in the elite class, in my humble opinion. The fundamentals of what made this bike so special and unique really comes down to a couple key metrics. The first is the battery. This is rocking a 60 volt, 20 amp hour battery that's nicely integrated into the down tube of the bike. The total capacity is huge, 1200 watt hours. That's larger than essentially every other e-bike on the market except for Suron, Teleria, names like that. And the voltage, of course, being 60 is above the normal 52 or even 48 we usually see. And they paired that with a Hentac geared hub motor, which I think is a little bit better than Bafang because the motor itself, I noticed, is 1 inch bigger in diameter. So that should improve the heat dissipation and the torque. And in addition to that, they have steel gears instead of the nylon found in Bafang hub motors. After the battery and the motor, the third crucial component is the controller. And here again, we see something that's significantly higher quality and more capable than most other bikes. The output of this controller is a massive 40 amps. To put that into context, most other bikes are about half of that, around like 24 amps. And if you multiply 40 amps times the battery voltage, 60, that gives you a theoretical maximum wattage of 2,400 watts. So hopefully you guys are beginning to see why the Wired Freedom is such an amazing bike. And the best part here is the price tag. It is just $2,000, making it less expensive than other bikes that have significantly less power and range. And I gotta say, after having used the bike personally, the power, both in terms of speed and acceleration, is really unmatched. And it's surprisingly close in capabilities to my current bike, which costs over $5,000, has a $350 controller, and dual 72 volt batteries. With all that said, the bike wasn't perfect. As you can tell by looking at it, it looks a little bit DIY. In fact, it reminds me a lot of my original DIY bike. My custom 72 volt, 2000 watt, 45 amp controller mountain bike. I built this using a budget Mongoose full suspension mountain bike frame, added an NB Power hub motor, and a battery. And I can tell you that thing was a ton of fun. I used it for about a year, put 3,500 miles on it. The performance was great. My top speed was about 45 miles an hour. Great acceleration being a 2,000 watt hub motor. But if the Wired Freedom existed back then, I totally, knowing what I know now, would have chosen this bike over my custom-built DIY bike. And that's because I was never a fan of how DIY and janky my original bike was. The big issue with most DIY builds is the battery. You can see my solution here really wasn't that elegant, and it was still the best solution I had. So putting my DIY bike side by side with the Wired Freedom, especially the new model, we can see the difference in craftsmanship and quality. And importantly, to achieve that better quality, unlike with essentially every other bike on the market, you don't have to give up power and affordability. As mentioned, my DIY bike had a top speed of about 45 miles an hour with a 2,000 watt hub motor, and the Wired Freedom is surprisingly similar. This hub motor is actually a bit more powerful at 2,200 watts. From what I can remember, the acceleration is surprisingly similar, and the top speed is about 40 miles an hour. And with the new 2024 model, the big upgrade here is the rear linkage. This is the linkage on the old bike, and I mentioned in my review that I didn't think it was the greatest. It was only a marginal increase over a hardtail bike. But this new linkage is, as far as I can tell, exactly the same as my old bike, even down to the shock. It has that $100 D&M air shock, and that linkage on my original bike was pretty good. Certainly better than the old Wired Freedom. So that's a look at the new 2024 model Wired Freedom. It builds upon the success of the original with the same high voltage, high capacity battery, powerful motor, attractive price point of just $2,000, and we get an improved rear linkage to hopefully give you a better, more cushioned riding experience. This is hands down one of the best bikes in the market, even when compared against custom DIY builds. So I'll go ahead and leave the website link down below. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.